Merchant Metals right now, right here. Okay. We are going to get into these big old bucket of motors that are in my power buggy over there. There's a first step that I'm going to go about prepping them before attempting to use my wire pulling machine over here, is that we're going to involve this demolition saw and we're going to cut one side off of these stators. Basically the side that's useless to pull from. I'll show you what I mean. Okay. On these stators, it's kind of weird because like these are unfinished for whatever reason. I don't know how you explain that. They're not like this side. Okay, like see, this side is supposed to be wound or something. I know all of these ends don't connect to certain things to create the power for the thing, because like the power for the motor, because that's what that would look like. These ends on this motor are meant to get soldered together to connect to this big piece of, you know, it's not a big piece, but this bigger piece of bus bar right there. So like that one is more finished than these ones over here. So yeah, it's like they're not even hardly finished. But what we need to do is, you see how this end, how these copper pieces, they're crossed and laced together. Like there's two ends, but they end up being about like that far apart from each other. Starting from one hole, there's two pieces of copper that come out, and it's like that. It's, you know, I don't have a whole lot of knowledge behind motors and stuff, but I know if I'm going to try to pull this, I'm going to want to cut these ends off. That's what that saw is going to be doing here shortly. I don't quite know exactly how well that's going to work, because this saw blade that I have on here is basically wore all the way down. There's hardly, I'm not going to say there's no carbide on there, but there's not a lot. And it actually might take longer than you guys would think to cut with a dull blade if it's a carbide blade like this. You know, this is the only one that I bought all summer. I probably should have another one right now, you know, ready for a scenario like this, but we're going to try to cut with it as it is and see if I can make fast progress. If not, I might have to figure some other scrap routine out right now for this video, because, well, that means I'd have to go buy a new blade. Today is Wednesday. I'm going out tonight, so I don't expect myself to get all this scrap metal done that I had picked last Friday, because we got last Wednesday covered, but now we're working on Friday's batch. I think we might need to do it like this because it gives me enough time to, you know, scrap it out, turn it in, and then edit videos at the same time. I just can't do it all at once. So yeah. These are the other smaller motors that we had with that Friday load, and I'm going to give you an example over here of ones that I probably wouldn't mess with. Okay, synchrorators here. The motors aren't really all that big enough, and then if you do manage to get them out, they're mostly aluminum wound motors. I found this out in advance. There's just there's a whole lot of work involved to take these apart, I guess you could say. And another thing is, like, you're not going to get any real good copper out of it. Even if there is copper, there's probably not a lot of it in there. You know, the majority of the weight of this is, I don't know how to explain that. I don't tear these apart though. I just scrapped up these as they are. Okay, synchrorator motors is a big no-no to me. You guys can scrap them if you want. Let me know if you scrapped synchrorator motors. These are garbage disposal motors that are underneath sinks. That's what I'm referring to synchrorator is. But, you know, do you guys scrap them out or do you not? Because I don't. I'll just throw them with all the other ones that we have and keep collecting them. I do clip the motors off, or not the motors, I'm sorry. I do clip the wires off of them, and I just sell it as a motor. Here's another example of one that I don't mess with. This is like a basement sump pump motor, okay? I tore into one of these before, and my experiences was not all that great. They're full of oil. the motors in them are small and they're aluminum. So to me, it doesn't make sense breaking this down because, you know, it's got a good weight as it is, as a motor, right? And last I turned in motors was like 21 cents a pound. Any other scrappers that watch my channel that's hearing this right now, what do you guys get for motor price? I'm getting 21 cents a pound. I am curious out there. So, okay. We shall clip the wire. Scrap this motor. Sump pump motor, no good. Okay. There's like more of an uncommon item that I would toss into a motor pile or whatever, but these are coil packs. They're basically little transformers that create spark to a spark plug on a vehicle. You know, in this case, there's 4 right here. This could have been like a 4-cylinder car or whatever the case. But I think, in theory, if I take these off, I could throw these in with transformers, probably, because that's what's inside these little top caps, are transformers. Basically something that's creating a spark. I guess you could harvest this wiring harness off of there and throw that into your wires. This piece here, I don't know, is it steel or aluminum? It's non-ferrous. So there's a good chunk of aluminum on there that could be easily scavenged, and some wires and transformers. That's good right there. That's goodness if you feel like taking stuff like this apart. So correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe that won't go in as transformers, but I think it should. The ones on my truck look like transformers, and I think I cracked one open, and that's basically what's inside of it. Maybe ballasts if they don't feel like it belongs in motors. Maybe they'll pay you less for them, I don't know, but I'm going to try throwing that in motors after reclaiming the aluminum in that wiring harness right there. Okay, next one. We have like 3 or 4 of these ones here. This one would be an example of one that I probably would take apart because, well, you got 3 different types of metals here, I guess you could say. You got steel bracket. You got this, what looks to be kind of like a turbo or something. It looks like a little turbo, doesn't it? But it's probably not. It's probably something that is, well, it appears to look like it's cast aluminum. So you could probably scavenge some cast aluminum off of this from here up, this whole thing. This cap that goes right around the motor. And then you can pull the motor out and see if you can get that stator out, and you got copper in there too. So really, when it comes to ones like this, I like to take an interest in them just because of the fact that you're gaining more than one style of non-ferrous metal out of it. So maybe it's worth taking apart. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, here's another garbage disposal. That's just motors. I'm going to sell that as motors. Okay. Don't really need this to be broke down at all. I feel like I'd be disappointed if I opened it. And if you get that feeling, don't be discouraged. You just kind of throw it into the motor pile instead of taking it apart. Yeah, try to see if it's going to be worth the time. In my experience with motors, I could honestly say majority of the time I don't think it's worth taking them apart. I could back that up with a big number of reasons and whatever, but I've done small experiments with tearing these down, and if you don't do it fast enough, you make not much more money than you would if you're just to turn it in as is. So I mean, that's one of the reasons why I don't really use that copper motor pulling machine, because I usually just sell them. Unless you get something cool or, you know, exciting that comes along, like that buggy full of skaters that are out of their cases and just looks like they're ready to rip and pull. You know, that looks amazing to me. It looks like I could do it fast if I can get my machine here to cooperate. They're a little bit too big for the machine that I built, because I was just basically making that to be able to pull motors like this or a little bit bigger. These ones over here are like, they're huge. They're around, dude, you know. I don't know if that I don't know if we have enough oomph to pull them out, but if we do, we got copper, that's for sure. I'm going to try to use that floor jack right there that's down there. I'm going to put the stator on the ground underneath the floor jack and then jack the motor up to where it needs to be. And then that's the only way that's going to work. My machine's just, the diameter of my machine is just 1.5 inches off. So if those motors were 1.5 inches smaller in diameter, they'd work perfect. But no, life just has to be like that sometimes. But here's an example of a motor that I definitely process or take apart just to see what's in it. Thing's a monster. I found that last night, or not last night, but I found that same night as with all these other ones that we're talking about. So yeah, all right, you guys kind of got the idea of what I'm doing here, and if we have time, we're going to take care of these. If not, we're going to set them to the side of the ones that we will process later. But we're going to basically prioritize our activities over here on these monster stators to see if we can get the copper out of them. So we're going to start by taking our demo saw and cutting a ring down one side, and we're going to try to yank them out with our machine over there. Yep, that's what we're going to do. Yeah, we'll see you in a few. Okay. Mason's Garden Schools. I'm over here trying to cut copper, so we'll see if this wore out blade does the trick. If not, we're gonna have to figure something out. So this video can really go one way or the other, so we'll see how it goes. Merchant Metals and Mason Boy. See you in a few. And you know, there'll be a time lapse coming soon. All right, everybody, we are going to dump those motors down here. We're gonna cut some ends off and see if that works out with the worn out blade that we have, unfortunately. But I'm gonna get you 2 different camera angles just so we can see if it's gonna work or not. But I gotta wear goggles, that's why I'm not gonna wear the GoPro on my head. So here's your second angle right here. Right here. Just hang on, let me set you. Whew, wee. So, for the most part, it looks like it did the trick. In theory, it should be easier to pull out now. And turns out there's 4 pieces of this bus bar per hole. Now, what I think I can do is I can just clean this up with the grinder when I get it up there, because it looks like it's not quite getting the last row. But it seems like that had worked pretty well. We're going to come over here and see if we can pull this winding. And if we can, we'll start cutting them all. I'm going to just put a little bit of lube around this side too. Nice. Okay. We'll see you over there by the puller. Alright everybody, we're going to try our first motor, see if that will pull successfully or not. I hope that's a good camera angle there. And we got one up there to show the whole crane working too. But basically what we got under here is our rolling car jack, a fuse panel box that's flipped upside down or upright, and then I threw the motor in under it so it's just right over top of our opening where it needs to be. Then we're just going to jack it right up to where our shutter slides are. You'll see. Yeah. And once we get it up to where we need it to be, which is right basically there, it's pretty good right there. You're gonna hook 3 of these up so you get kind of I guess you could say like the same amount of pull on all sides. Try to anyways. These stators are so big I'm only able to grab them from specific spots, but I'm gonna get a bite on all 3 sides for sure. Now I go up a bit. You just want to make sure they all grab is the main thing. Okay. I like to press down on them just a bit more. Make sure they have all 3 of them got a good bite on it. And we should be able to start fighting and prying it out. We'll see what happens. Holy smokes. I had to check something up there. I'd like the cable to be over here toward the middle, where it's got a good pull on it, I guess. There. Yeah, I don't know. He's got that. It's got that layer of pink crap on these. What? Let's go for it. It's either it pulls it out or it breaks the crane, one or the other. Holy smokes. These might be a lot harder than I expected. That is definitely possible. Okay. That's no bueno. Did it even pull anything up? I don't think it did. It might not be a good idea to pull these. I don't know if they're going to do it. I don't know. Okay. So we're going to take another approach at this, seeing that we can't pull the whole coil out as a whole. I am going to reduce the amount of pullers we have and go after, maybe try to go after smaller sections. Definitely not letting me have it. These might be way harder than I expected, to be quite honest. Holy smokes. Ruh-roh. I don't have anything to split them in half with. I'm sure this is a problem that Project Shop Florida kept running into, is trying to get them to pull all out, and then he came up with that splitter. Maybe I make a stator splitter out of that 30-ton press up there. Maybe that's what needs to happen. Yeesh. Okay. Okay, I could see that possibly working. That's gonna take a while, man. This puller is definitely not it's not perfected. If you guys check out the videos in previous videos back when it was like basically last winter, I was still struggling to try to be able to get everything done and needed and money wise to be able to well, to be able to start my travels, right? And I built this machine when it was basically freezing temperatures out, because I was trying to kill time. That's a cool jumping spider, but you can just head out this way, and being in there is a bad spot for you, dude. You go. That was a cool spider. We're gonna try pulling with just one and see if we can get bits of it to come out at a time, because if we do that, we can probably loosen these windings up. Like I said, guys, I knew pulling these was going to be an issue, but I was like praying that they would pull out whole, and they're not. Well, what can you do? We're learning new things here, okay? In this case, it's little nibbles at a time. Yep. If I'm getting the copper out in any way. See if we can pull that amount. Okay, so it is working if we do bites. We're doing bites, which is extremely ineffective. I mean, it is going to work, but like not as good as I want it to work. Let's try to pull a little bit more now, since it might be loosening up. Don't want to max out the crane up there and break. That steel ball will go all up just about the height of what we're pulling right now. See if we can get that. We might be able to get a rhythm here. We'll see. Okay, we're doing something to it. Those are sharp. I don't think we'll be pulling on those by hand. This machine I made is just not designed for this kind of motor, I guess. And that's okay, you know, it is what it is. Maybe I can get a crunch on it now right here and get a bunch out since we got some loose. Okay, that's more of a sizable amount right there for sure. And keep in mind, this motor is really, the stator is really long too. Like, I don't know. That's probably why it's struggling to pull so hard. But can you guys believe that one nail puller keeps up with the strength of pulling that with that crane? It's pretty crazy there. We definitely need improvement here on this tool. And these are pretty tough motors from what I see to pull, you know? But it looks like we're getting somewhere with it, so that's good. Not exactly how I imagined it. So I think that's going to be my trick. I got to ring around maybe the inside portion of this motor so I can loosen up all the other windings. I think that's the trick here that I'm going to have to do. But this is not fast enough. It's not. This isn't fast enough. At least I don't think it is. Maybe I can get in some kind of a rhythm, but I'm not seeing it. That's my honest opinion for something that I built. You never know. We could start doing really good here in a second, but I'm thinking maybe it's about the way the bottom of it's getting cut. It's, in a way, it's kind of mushing the copper too. I mean, these are way bigger than what my machine should be pulling, and it's pulling it. We're taking a different approach and we're trying it at different angles and ways. So I mean, really, I don't know. We're definitely going to do some math on how much copper comes out of one, and we're going to justify if it's worth taking 5 minutes a piece to do them. I think that's going to be the angle right there. And just for fun reasons, I might just keep doing it anyway, just to see how much came out of these, because this is the only real way I have to pull copper. I'm not going to invest into like a 2,000 pound hydraulic machine and tote that around with me. This design right here is to be able to pull windings easily and do it mobily, you know. Okay, you know, like a bunch of hydraulic tools and table and this, that, and the other thing. How much does that all weigh up to be, honestly? In my scenario, that's not feasible. I can't do that because I have to keep within a specific weight to not break my mobile scrap shop, I guess you want to call it. Yeah, it's a mobile work platform, and my copper pulling methods need adjusting for sure. But with smaller motors, man, it pops them right out of there like nothing. But these ones, man, taking me some time. Plus I am talking to you guys and everything too, so really I can't wait to see the footage from the GoPro up there. I really want to see that. But these are difficult, man, for me anyway. But besides one spot right there on this side that I'm going to get right now, kind of seems like they should all be loose enough to pull, so I'm going to try to pull them through with pliers or something. See if I can get something to go like that. Because pulling these out whole, that's not an option. See, I don't think I'm getting them out fast enough either. I don't know. What if I split the copper ring up in 4 or 5 sections? And then focus all the strength and pull on each side. Because then at least I would only do it in 4 or 5 pulls. I don't know. But this is the reality of the thing that I made last winter. That was basically when I was ready to go, all but the port that I was waiting on this auction house that sold all of my stuff to actually pay me for it. And that was a big old mess too, but I'm not going to get too much into that part. You can go back and watch it if you want, but it's not a very happy time in my life. I can almost pull them out by hand, but I feel like I'll cut myself if I do that, so yeah. I'm just trying to get all the copper out of it so we can weigh it and see what's what for how much is in each motor. Then we'll do some math. Which they put out a pretty good pile of copper. I mean, it ain't wrong there. Trying to get every little piece here so I get a good idea what we have going on. It's going to be a rough estimate, I suppose. There's a few pieces that fell down here, but man, the rough estimate of how much that weighed was 10.5 pounds of copper came out of that. 10.5 pounds. So from how many motors that I'm looking at right now is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 of them that are like this. And then there's 4 or 5 that are the smaller ones, but if you add 2 and 2 of those together, you probably got about 3 more. So yeah, no, this is gonna be like, depending on who I take it to and if they pay me number 2 copper for it, I should be able to get $30 to $40 a piece for doing them. And that's the fact jack right there. So in order to make that feasible for me, is that if I find it a more efficient way to tear the copper out, basically. Maybe that was just the hard one, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it'll be a struggle the whole way. We'll have to see what it is. But we're getting between $30 and $40 if we process them. $30 to $40 a piece. Heck, I reckon even if I take $30 an hour, man, even if it just takes me an hour to take one apart, I'm still making $30 an hour, right? And at the minimum, $30 an hour. Yeah, and if I can get 2 of them within an hour, well, that's $60 an hour. So yeah, I'd say they're worth it. I'm unhappy with the way my machine is performing, but we can work with it because it is pulling copper. And just these stators are, dude, they're super long. That's how long the core is on those. We're gonna take a quick break right here. I gotta get some editing done, and then we're gonna get out here and start processing these. We're gonna start cutting all the crowns off of them. Plus there's still a bunch of copper over there laying on that plastic we didn't add in. I bet they're 12 pounds, at least 12 pounds of copper each on each motor. That looks like a payday to me, seeing that we got 15 or 16 of those. Yeah, I think that'll work. We're taking a break after this newfound information and finding out that my machine needs some work on it. I mean, we gotta work some kinks out for sure. Maybe we upgrade the size of the motor up here so we get more pulling power. Based on this video right here, I'm going to be able to see how much this is actually flexing because it's hard to see from down there.
I worked so long in construction that I forgot I had a dream. Didn't know where I was going, didn't like where I had been. So one day I gave it all up when my eyes were open wide. I packed my life into my truck with Mason Boy by my side. I kept driving, but I had to make ends meet. I started thriving by scrapping industry, dumpster diving, street scrapping throughout America. From Michigan to Ohio, down to Florida. Merchant metals, recycle, don't destroy. Merchant metals and my dog Mason Boy. channel, leave a thumbs up and say hi. I bought myself a trailer, so when I'm on the road, I have a rolling workshop and can scrap a heavy load. When it feels like life is hard, I know just what to do. I hit the road and recycle scrap and make my dreams come true. I kept driving, but I had to make ends meet. I started thriving by scrapping in the street, dumpster diving, street scrapping throughout America. From Michigan to Ohio, down to Florida. Merchant metals, recycle, don't destroy. Merchant metals, my dog Mason boy. Merchant metals, thank you for stopping by. Please subscribe to my channel, leave a thumbs up and say hi. Merchant metals, recycle, don't destroy. Merchant metals, and my dog Mason boy. Merchant metals, thank you for stopping by. Please subscribe to my channel, leave a thumbs up and say hi.